Native American life is a little harsher than some people can relate to or might not want to know. Um, my family drank, and it was hard to go to school because a lack of clothing, a lack of money for um, things that other children had. And so my sister was in a foster home or a group home, and so I decided that I wanted to do that, that it would be better and for me. And so I went into foster homes. I graduated from Chewelah, Jenkins High in Chewelah, and it was an unloving situation in the three or four. One was a loving situation. It was rough, and I was tough, and I got tougher, and so when I got out of high school, and the reason that I got into Upward Bound with Roger Sale and Ralph and Jack Brenner and all of them was that there was a Bureau of Indian Affairs man. I can't remember his last name. Can't even remember his first name, but it'll come to me. Mr. Anderson is how we knew him. That's the way we referred to him. He wasn't Native American, but he talked to all the Native Americans that aspired to a higher than a C average. And so he came to the school where I was, and I hadn't been approached by anyone from the tribe in all the time I was growing up, from 5th grade on. So then I started receiving money from them to upgrade my clothing, or whether I needed more books, or to ensure that I got better English grades, and emphasis in that direction through Mr. Anderson. And so he approached me about Upward Bound at the University of Washington, and I had probably like a 2.7, 2.8, not a grand GPA, but smarter than the average Native American on the Colville Reservation. So it floored my fellow classmates that, everybody wanted to go to the university, but nobody could afford it. And I was one of 2 Native Americans graduating, and they certainly didn't think that I was University of Washington quality. And, some people told me so from my classmates. In general, it was a rough beginning. So I came to the I received a $5,800 scholarship to go to the U, and I was out of there like a flash out of Chewelah. I mean, it was just like I couldn't get out fast enough. I left my yearbook, left everything, never returned, never got it from my foster home. Met Roger, thought he was the grandest guy in the whole wide world, and we all aspired to be our better selves. I left in '67 when I graduated, went to the Upward Bound in '66. My foster parents tried to dissuade me from returning because they thought it was a bad influence, because I became more mouthy, had more attitude, spoke my likes or dislikes, was really already stubborn and already opinionated, but became much more so after seeing that I could speak my mind. So I went to the university, and damned if the Vietnam War didn't begin, and my grades even got worse because I was very involved with sit-ins, Charles Odegaard's office, the Black Student Union, and we all would go and we'd meet in the Black Student Union office that was at the hub at the university on the second floor, and we'd decide what we could do to shake up the university to be aware of Native American issues, Black student issues, anybody to listen to us. And we would do the worst we could to, short of being thrown in jail, to get attention. The reason all of that attention towards activism started was because of Upward Bound. We all among ourselves were Mexicans, we were Native Americans, we were Blacks, we were there were a lot of city Blacks, there were we country bumpkin Native Americans. We really were. We were just bumpkins. But we were all very interested in everything about books, about movements, about who Black people were, because I didn't know who Black people were in Eastern Washington. When I got to the Upward Bound, we all started exchanging attitudes, seeing who we were at the U, what we could or couldn't do as far as getting help, because a lot of us needed a lot of help with education. We had our advisors. We had Roger Sale. All of them would help. We had Meredith Matthews, and Meredith, he became a doctor, and he has one of the Black YWCAs or YMCAs named after him, and these were all very smart people, and we did have the assistance, but I think that we needed to be much more well-rounded than what we were, and it wasn't just one aspect of school that we needed help in. But anyway, we had no trouble being angry about various things that weren't happening in the Black community or the Native American community, or people approaching us, seeing if they could kind of mollycoddle us and help us through school a little bit better. I don't think we really even knew how to voice it in specifics sometimes. We were angry. What I felt was like I knew Robbie Stern, I knew Larry Gossett, I knew a lot of people in the community that were good spokesmen, and they gave us a lot of ideas. They listened to us. They were very well versed in a lot of political arenas, knowing the language. We knew how to approach them. They knew how to say the things, and we believed in what they were saying. We were behind them all the way. But in and of ourselves, we were kind of a lost mass needing guidance, I guess. Angry lost mass needing guidance, but knew that there were a lot of things that weren't right in the community. Odegaard and the regents wouldn't listen to the needs for the Black community or the minority rights about sending somebody from the university and talking with us about the things that we needed. We needed daycare for our children. I had no children, but there were people among us that had children that attended the U that weren't getting any kind of help. We needed assistance in living above and beyond the small amount that we were getting, because some of the fellow students with Upward Bound, I knew their personal circumstances. I personally got money from my tribe through the scholarship, and then I got money from the university. It was a free ride in that sense, but it wasn't enough. There was a huge gap. It was like you knew what you wanted, you knew what you needed, but there was no one to approach. No program, no person, no person that knew how to pull the strings to get it to happen. No one. just among ourselves, if we were able to help ourselves in our meetings, you know, if somebody could help you that way. But there were a lot of needy people for school, and there was no place you could go. And so I guess basically that's what we wanted, was a program that helped all of us. We had an office, but before we had that office, we didn't have an office. We made it happen that there was a place for us to meet. And the place we met before we had a place to meet was everybody would go into the hub, and there was an area there where all the black students and all the other minority students would congregate, and they'd play bid whist. I didn't play bid whist, but it was a raucous time all day long, and I think if there was a bid whist championship that the Black Student Union, several members could have won. And that's where we gathered. And so then from there, then we would have our meetings, and so then we decided that to make a real statement, we would go to Odegaard's office. We just walked in. Nobody quite knew what we were doing. Everybody people were really afraid of a gathering of dark-skinned people. And they didn't quite, well, either, and also just a gathering of a lot of people that were really quite angry. I think that they thought that we were going to club them or push them or hurt them. And well, we weren't going to be pushed to the ground or shoved to the ground, but we were just going to go forward and make a statement. Is basically, we weren't out to hurt anyone, but I guess it was joyful, angry enthusiasm that kind of just like washed the way in front of us, that made a kind of a wake and made everybody move aside because we were coming. And it was exhilarating in a lot of ways, but we just went up to Odegaard's office and people just kind of moved aside because they didn't know what we would do. And we went in to his office, and nobody was there to block the way in the sense that there was a big fight. At least I didn't see it. When we went into the office, we barred it, and we stayed there. And we stayed there until we were able to have a meeting. The only part I recall afterwards, is after that meeting might have taken place, is that some of us took things, and then we were all told that we had to return things. I had a memento and I had to return it. I don't know how whoever knew that I had it, but I returned it. We called the police pigs. They were pigs to us. We never saw anybody treated well when it was a minority and a policeman. We knew that people were better damn well get out of the way if a policeman and his club were coming. And it was usually a policeman and his club. When we had a University Way march. Somehow we were there and we were marching, and we were near 50th Street, and they said the police were coming. Everybody ran. Everybody. I don't know how many people were there, but there had to be at least over 200. Well, I ran south on University Way between 47th and towards 45th. And I got caught, and I got knocked to the ground, and I got arrested. They would talk to us, about us, not to us, the police. They would say, "She's a smart one. Watch what you say around her," things like that. And it wasn't like directly to us, not getting our names, calling us by name or anything of that nature. It was kind of like a shove push, you know, just I don't know. It's just, anyway, it wasn't a give and take and a fairness kind of thing, and the local citizen has been arrested. Public defenders were really working right and left for people then. We have a long way to go. It's like my daughter, she's part white and she's part Native American. She considers herself a Native American, but I think I've changed my children because I've always been so aggressive to look for racism and an attitude, and they think I go overboard. Even my own children think I go overboard. They think I'm making a big fuss about nothing. That if somebody overlooks us in a restaurant and makes us wait or makes us stand or whatever, they say, "Mom, it's just a busy place. Mom, just be patient and you'll have your turn." Well, I'm patient to a degree. And then I want to speak to your manager. That's just the way I am. I want to speak to your manager. My husband says that I should have been somebody, in working for the mayor's office, or I should be somebody that's working for the state government in a position of minority head position, that I know people, I've known people for, in high places, and that I should have used those contacts. He's probably right. There's been a reticence on my part that I can explain, that I felt that was, I don't know whether it was that I might get into a position where I might have to not compromise myself, but maybe not quite be able to fill the shoes. And I was just a little bit afraid that of that feeling, I guess. But I certainly can stand beside Larry Gossett. I can certainly stand beside Roberto, and we all know each other, and they all have high regard for me and I for them. We met at the Century Tavern every day. Well, we didn't meet every day, but every day at 4 o'clock, Mary Hartman used to be on, and everybody did not miss that. And so, of course, it would be happy hour, and he was a student, and he was doing lab work, and it was really intense. My husband could have been a doctor if he had wanted. So he was just, felt like he had crawled out a test tube and come and seen the show, Mary Hartman, and just thoroughly enjoyed it. And he was, short of cheese and bread sandwiches, it was just really poor. And so, if they served food at the Century and then that cheap beer, he was just at the hilt. So we sat there and met each other. There was still politics going on. That's why everybody met there, is because that was one of the meeting places of Crowley and all of the other people in SDS. I didn't know them. The only one I really knew well was Robbie Stern. Robbie knew me. He searched out the minorities. He tried to make contact with all of them, know their names, know their interests, know that he would get us as minorities to be involved in marches, and we would be there because he went out of his way. So Doug and I met, and we soon after started living together at Larry Leicester's house, who was the one that was running the daycare program at the University of Washington. Then they got kicked out because they didn't have credentials, but they had all these kids that trusted Larry and brought their children to him and trusted him. But they didn't have university credentials, so he was out. Doug and I got married soon after in 1977, had Carmelita. Doug had some big incidents when we had those university marches and stuff. One of his friends, the police told him and 2 other guys to run. The police got out of the cars, 4 of them, maybe more, had their clubs and told them, run. One of them didn't run, and he had a big lawsuit because they nearly killed him, because they had to rework his whole mouth, everything. It was terrible because he didn't run. And had my husband been caught, well, he did get caught in the sense that he got hit a few times on the calves of his legs, but then he got away. You didn't stand around and you didn't watch anybody and you didn't take pictures because you might be the one lying down there as a victim. Everybody sat on Hippie Hill. Everybody sat at 43rd on the lawn. We had Kungas. We had black people that came up from San Francisco that were learning Kungas, and we all sat there, and we all smoked dope, and we sang, or we danced to the Kunga music, and the hill was our hill. They never bothered us around there, the police. They knew what was going on. But we had our places that we were kind of like, this is our own. The campus police weren't exactly our friends either. You know, they could make us move on, and they were just as intimidating as Seattle police if they chose to get in their numbers and start marching forward with batons. There were a lot of undercover police. There were a lot of students that were undercover that went into all the meetings. Everybody knew there were. We didn't know who they were. Sometimes we might suggest that somebody might be, but nobody ever really knew. Yeah, it was an exciting time. It was a fun time, and a lot of those people, you know, I still know today. We don't gather. Once in a while, you know, I see some place where they're going to march. I think the last march I went on was approximately 2 or 3 years ago, and I went down, and my daughter just says, "Oh, Mom, you know, why do you have to go down there and do that? You know, do it in your mind only," or something. But I went down there, and you know, I missed the march, but I knew where they were coming from, or had just gone by, or anything. And you know, I just love the spirit of it. It's just like you're putting forth your word against oppressive things that shouldn't be happening to people who, you know, are short on money, not a place to live, living out of cars. I've worked in battered women's shelters. I've worked in on First Avenue where it was a walk-in center for women. I've worked for the YWCA for the battered women's shelter. I've worked in a mental health facility up on Capitol Hill. I didn't have a clue then. I just wanted to help people that were, you know, in the mental health community that needed a voice. And I almost didn't have a voice a couple of times because I didn't know how bad some people's issues were with their own mental health problems. But I got through it, and I learned from it, you know, and so, you know, I'm glad I did it. I've visited all the prisons in the state through an Indian paraprofessional program. I went to Montreal to speak to the world community about Native American issues way back in, gee whiz, it must have been 1970 or something. It was before my son was born. I went in this, you know, very wonderful leather jacket with fringe on it, and I nearly froze my butt off in Montreal. I never had a clue how cold it was there, but it was really great. I mean, I was in this great big hall, and it was just huge, and all these people were there, and it was just huge. You know, it was like a world kind of a send out of all, you know, for Native Americans and to speak to this mostly communist kind of idea get together. And I just have vague memories of this too, but it was wonderful.